Hello again, Year 5 and 6. So our last video this week is towards the end of the week. We're looking at word problems related to fractions. So I'll read this. This is off one of the sheets today, and all the questions will be. So Olivia went out for a walk. She walked a quarter of a mile and then sat down to take a rest. I didn't put Olivia's name in there deliberately, but she hasn't walked very far, has she, before she needs a rest. Then she walked a quarter of a mile. How far did she walk altogether? So the first thing we need to do with these word problems is to decide is this an add or a take away. Okay, now in this one, if I drew this as a bar model, we would think of it as Olivia walking a certain distance, which is 1/4 of a mile, and then she stops, and then she walks a little bit further, another quarter, so that would be, I hope you can see from the bar model that would suggest that it's going to be an add. Also, the word altogether tells us it's probably an add. So what we're going to have to do, once we've looked at the problem, is we then need to calculate. So 1/4 add 1/4, because we've got the same denominator, and all of the questions that this what sheet came from have the same denominator, so we get used to the questions. A quarter add a quarter equals 2/4, or we could write that as 1/2, okay, because they're the same thing. So then we fill in the box saying it's a half or 2/4. Okay, let's look at the next problem. Grace ran 2/3 of a marathon, and Anita ran 5/6 of a marathon. Who ran further, and what fraction further? So if I drew this as a bar model, I'd be thinking, well, here's Grace and she did 2/3. Now I'm not sure, or you might not be sure, which one is further, 2/3 or 5/6. But we know that they both did the running. Okay, now actually I do know it's that 5/6 is further, and I'll explain why I know 5/6 is further. But you can see this is a kind of a comparison between how far Grace ran and how far Anita ran. Okay? Now to compare them, we need to turn them so they look the same, like we've been doing all week, looking at fractions by having the same denominator. So we need 2/3 and 5/6 to have the same denominator. Notice I haven't put an add or a take away at this point. I'm just doing this question, who ran further. So to look at them, I want them to look the same, so I'm going to take the denominator of 6. Hopefully you know by now why the denominator is 6. It's because the 3 times table goes 3, 6, 9, and the 6 times table goes 6, and so 6 is your common denominator. Now 5/6 is 5/6. This one here, we need to convert it so it looks the same. 3 times 2 is 6, so I do the same to the numerator, and that's what we've been doing all this week. So we know that Grace ran 4/6, which is the same as 2/3, and we know Anita ran 5/6. So on this one, we know Anita ran further. That's the first part. The second part of the question, and you always need to check, every time you see a question mark, that means it's asking us something. It's asking what fraction further did Anita run compared to Grace. I'm going to make us some space here, but basically, because Anita went further, we're trying to find this distance here, the difference between Anita and Grace. So that will be a subtraction. If we're trying to find difference, we're always subtracting. So, because we need to put the bigger number at the start of the fraction, it's going to be 5/6, take away 4/6. I could have written 2/3, but I've already converted it into 4/6, so I can simply see that the difference there, 1 take away another, 5 take away 4 is 1, so the difference is 1/6. So what fraction further? I could write Anita ran 1/6 further. Okay. So the problems in these word problems is not maybe the fraction work, it's the understanding of whether we're adding and taking away. We'll look at one more. This is from some work with some mixed fractions. So Frank ran 3 4/12 of a metre yesterday and 2 3/6 of a metre today. How many metres did he run? Well, it would be much easier if it was in decimals, but it's not. So, how many did he run in total? That word in total gives us a clue that it's going to be an add. Okay, because we're adding together, we're doing what he did yesterday. Okay, if I show that with a bar model. Okay, you don't have to use a bar model, but in school sometimes we encourage that if you're unsure and trying to understand how these problems are working. So 3 4/12 and 2 3/6. Okay, so you can see it's going to be an add. So I know my calculation is going to be 3 4/12 add 2 3/6. And if you're looking at this and you've not seen these all week, it's very likely you won't be given problems like this. So now's your time to go and get on with your work. But anyway, we're going to turn these into improper or top-heavy fractions. So we do 3 times 12, which is 36, add on the 4. So the top-heavy fraction there would be 40/12. Okay, and we'll do the same to the other one. So we're going to do 2 times 6 is 12, add on the 3 is 15, so that's 15/6. Okay, so now we're looking for common denominator. We should be able to see that it's now 12. So this one stays the same, 40/12, and this one, how do you get from 6 to 12? You double it, so you times by 2, so you times the top by 2, which will give you 30. Now it's looking a bit horrible because you've got great big numbers, so you're going to do 40/12 at 30/12 is 70/12, and the icing on the cake then would be to use your to turn that back into a mixed fraction, which we do as 70 divided by 12. Okay, so how many 12s go into 70? Well, 5 times 12 is 60. Okay, and then you're counting on the remainder would be 10, and we can write that as a mixed fraction. It's going to be 5 10/12. Okay, and we could write that in the answer box. So if you watched to the end of the video and that one there's confused you, don't worry about it. Hopefully your sheet today will be based more around what we call proper fractions, where you don't have that horrible bit where you have the mixed fractions in there. Okay, so good luck with your word problems. As always, message us on eSchools if you have any difficulties. Okay, bye and have a great weekend.